But there were just a few of us who were affected. Business was good. My dad's business was flourishing. He couldn't see what was happening. He just didn't want to see it. Being an only child, when I talked about leaving the country, my mother would cry. So it became impossible to say goodbye. Nobody molested us. We were very respected in the city. Everything was fine. So I struck a compromise. I went to Basel, Switzerland for my doctorate. After Basel, those years you could go back and forth in and out of Germany. You could even take a few Reichsmark out to carry you for a few weeks. I had the idea, being a religious Jew, to go to Palestine. Agriculture was an important item in what's today Israel, what was then Palestine. And I knew a lot about it, having lived with it in my young years. And you were able to export machinery from Germany to Palestine. So I lined up milking instruments, the whole machinery that you need to run a dairy farm. And just as I was getting ready to materialize it, they clamped the law down, the Nazis, that nothing can be exported anymore. All anybody could take out of Germany was his personal belongings. Well, I guess I was not enough of an idealist to start as a farm worker or as anything else in a hard-working, difficult country which Palestine was in those days. So Palestine fell by the wayside too. My closest friend of my school years, Alfred Halberstadt, emigrated early, maybe in 1932, to Johannesburg, South Africa. And he kept on writing me how nice it is, why don't you come? So that was another project. And just as I was getting ready for it, the newspaper reported anti-Semitic outbursts in Johannesburg. So I said, what I do, go from the fire in the frying pan, and that eliminated Johannesburg. Why didn't I go to the United States? Because I couldn't. It was my first choice right along. My parents were against it, all the water, but I would have overcome that. But you need an affidavit to get into the United States. I had no close relatives in this country. Had one distant relative, second or third cousin of my dad's, to whom I wrote, and who turned me down because his brother and sister were still in Germany, and he felt that he has to bring them out, and he did not want to weaken his affidavit for his brother and sister. So, what to do? How do you get to the United States? I made myself a partner in my dad's business. Changed the records, changed everything. And after a few months of running it that way, I went to the German consul in Frankfurt, which was not an immigration council. The immigration council was Stuttgart, but there was also a consul in Frankfurt. And I told him, I want to go to the United States on my way to Santo Domingo and Haiti, where I want to visit some friends. And I want to stop over for 10 days in New York to visit a friend there. And on that basis, showing my books as a partner of a business and definitely returning to Germany, he gave me a visa for 10 days, a transit visa. But before he did, he made me sign a declaration that I would not remain in the United States illegally, nor immigrate through another country. In my desperation, I would sign anything, and I did. got to New York. The man who turned me down by letter gave me the affidavit. I went to the Council of Jewish Women for directions. And the worker said, that's fine. You go to Havana and see the consul in Havana. And he stays there for 2 days, and then you come back an immigrant to the United States. I said, what? I signed a paper, said I would not immigrate through another country. Forget about it, she said. How will the consul in Havana know what you signed in Frankfurt? Forget it. But I didn't like it. I went back to her. She almost threw me out of the office. She said, if you want to go back to Hitler and get killed, be my guest. Okay. I found out her days off was, pardon me, Wednesday, let's say. I went back to that office and talked to her supervisor. And she said, told her the story and my feeling. And she said, my colleague is right. Go ahead, you have no problem. Well, I had 2 good opinions and went to Havana. Had my physical. Next day, I saw the vice consul for my papers. And he said, what made you come to Havana to emigrate to the United States? I told him I was on a pleasure trip to Haiti and Santo Domingo. And my friends in New York, that's what the women at the office had told me to say, convinced me that there's no time for a German Jew to go on pleasure trips, stay in the United States. So I changed my mind about the pleasure trip, and here I am to emigrate to the United States. He says, well, I got to verify that. I'm going to write for your papers to the consul in Germany. How long will that take? Oh, about 3 months, because all consular papers will go from one consul through Washington to another consul. I said, can't you speed it up? He said, what's your hurry? You wanted to go to San Domingo and Haiti anyhow. He says, but now I'm in a hurry. Well, I convinced him to wire Germany, but still the papers had to come through Washington. The papers came, and he called me in. He pulled out this paper, not to immigrate through another country. Did you sign this, Mr. Levi? Yes, I did. He sat back in his chair. I have to turn down your application. That was the end of the road. He got up, showed me to the door. I didn't. I sat. I kept on talking. And my English wasn't all that good. Well, he didn't understand me. And he couldn't physically throw me out, I guess. So he said, I'll let you talk to the consul. He just came back from a 6-year stint in Hamburg, Germany, and he speaks German. Nice man. And he said, you're lying to me. Your papers show that you had an emigration visa to Haiti. And you're telling me you wanted to go on a pleasure trip. I said, that's wrong. Never did I have any intention to go to Haiti. That's what it says. I said, let me prove to you. Said I didn't. I don't know what difference it would make, he says, but be my guest. So I went to the Western Union office and cabled my dad to get me a verification from the consul in Haiti. Said I never had an immigration visa. I made that cable very short because every word cost money. And my dad, may he rest in peace, read my cable the wrong way. He thought I wanted a certification that I had a visa to immigrate to Haiti. I went to the consul. The consul said, I don't know any Kurt Levi. My dad says, he was here. You gave it to him. He called his secretary. Do you know of any Kurt Levi? Never heard of him. Well, my dad was a good salesman. And he said, what are you doing to me? My son's life is at stake in Havana. You got to help me out. So, the guy, being a businessman, just a consul on the side, you know, wrote a letter. And that letter had to go through the consul in Havana. Yeah. At which point, he called me in when he got it. He was the biggest liar I've ever seen. The contrary of what you're telling me is true. Well, I told him of the predicament. And he talked to me for about an hour to verify, to believe what I was saying. Whether he believed it or not, I don't know. But his heart came through. He says, you got your papers? I said, heaven to heaven. And he gave me my immigration visa. So it was 3 terrible months in Havana. Luckily I made a little money and could eat and live, but it was rough. Then I took the boat back, and the immigration officer on the boat looked at my papers, Ellis Island, because the message of a turn down of an immigration from any consul in the world goes, it's Interco office, I don't know which, and he saw my name as a turn down in his records. So he sent me to Ellis Island. Well, it took a few days for me to get the proper information to the immigration authorities from Havana, and then I entered New York, a free man.